All right, thank you for coming to my presentation. So I'm calling the presentation Utilizing Music Class to Work on IEP Goals. IEPs are the individual education plan that we find for our students who have disabilities and are receiving special education services. So the whole reason that I was doing this is because I found a problem. And the problem was a lot of our special ed students were getting services during music class. They weren't actually in the class, or they were very disengaged. So I wanted to figure out how we can use music class as another place to target specific IEP goals. So that's why we did this study. Moving on to my methodology. So what I did was I interviewed the entire special education staff to see which students would actually be good candidates for it. Some of our students had more severe disabilities and really couldn't benefit from it at all, while others were so light it wouldn't necessarily make an impact either. After that, I also interviewed, or at least I sent out messages to all of the grade level teachers to see if they agreed with who I was kind of leaning towards, and all of you actually liked them, so thank you. What I did was I took their progress monitoring data from before the study started, and I wrote that down. In my actual music classroom, I utilized one IEP goal per student. So for some students, this was an ELA goal. Other students, it was an actual math goal. And we worked directly on that goal as if it was just a generic part of the class. I wrote down everything on a chart for progress monitoring. Halfway through, I emailed all the teachers, including the special ed team, to see if we saw any changes in the academic performance or behavioral performances in the students. I got plenty of responses, which is fantastic. And I did the same thing at the end. So at the end of the actual study, I looked at all my progress monitoring data, I looked at all the notes from the interviews, and I also looked at our M-Class and our iReady data to see if it reflected in the actual big beginning of the year and middle of the year scores. So that's my methodology. Moving on to my results. So, results are as follows. The attendance improved immensely. I only had one student that missed the class. That was student 4. Student 4 was away simply because she kind of had a harder time with one of her disabilities for 1 week. After that, she was behaving much better. What was interesting is this really wasn't something I was aiming to do. It wasn't done for functional IEP, it was done for academic IEPs. But we saw the behavior, well, I saw the behavior, not we. I saw the behavior of all the students getting better, especially because, I was talking directly to them. The next thing that I found was that all the students were actually growing in the IEP that I picked. So, again, you're going to see in the handout I have for you. Well, the little handout, you're going to see the growth that we saw in the actual study. So we'll talk about that shortly. And then some of the things that we also found was, as far as academic good, 2 of the students actually made growth, 2 of the students stayed put, 2 of the students regressed. I did want to add notes about this to the results. We do have to understand that students with disabilities don't necessarily make progress. There's a plateau system. So there's a rise, a plateau, a rise, a plateau. So for some of them, a month-long study is just not long enough to actually see a growth at all. For others, they have disabilities that might make them less engaged. So if they're engaged in the music class, but they're not engaged in the academic class, it's going to kind of mess the results up a little bit. You're going to see a regression instead of a progression inside the academic classroom. All right. And again, so this is that table. It shows, again, the growth. So the blue is the actual growth I saw in the specific IEP goal. So remember, I did one IEP goal for 4 weeks. So we're working specifically on that. And we saw large growth in each one as I utilized those IEP goals. And again, it translated for 2 of our students. So that would be student K, student 3. Didn't really do much for student 1 or 4. And then we saw a slight regression for 2 and 5. Any? Looks good, everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. So now, finally, the discussion part. So what this means for all of us. Overall, the implication is that IEP goals can be worked on directly in the actual music classroom. This also means it could be worked on in all the specialty classrooms. We could be seeing this in library, gym, art, even through the computers if we wanted to do that. It's definitely accessible. This also can be done, this also can be done with multi-stimuli. So what I mean by that is in the music class, I can hand them an instrument. They physically feel the instrument. They see the instrument. They hear the instrument. They can count the instruments. There you go. You made a multi-stimuli situation for them to do their math. We did the same thing with actual reading too. So I would present, here's the composer. This is when he lived. This is what he did. And then I asked afterwards, who was he? Where was he? When was he? Why did he do it? Well, you know, all that kind of stuff. And that actually helped us with the ELA. We also saw the behaviors improve. I'm going to go ahead and assume after working with the students, by working with them individually in the group setting, they almost felt more comfortable in the group. Does that make kind of sense? So like they know that they're being addressed. They know that I care because I know what their goal is. So they are more apt to engage and more apt to actually work on that IEP goal. All right. And conclusion. Oops, sorry, it got stuck.
Click back.
All right, hold on. We love technology, don't we? Give me a moment. Well, the conclusion is that we can definitely work on IEP goals in the music classroom. Almost there. Thank you for being patient with me. We can work on the IEP goals in the music classroom, and students do actually benefit from having their IEP goals worked on across the whole school, specialties, classroom, everywhere. So that is our conclusion. Are there any questions?
I have one.
Yes.
So as a classroom teacher, how can I utilize this information in my own instruction?
So my big thing would be working on that multi-stimuli. So again, instead of, I know a lot of our progress monitoring we have on paper, especially for math, here's a group of 5, and here's a group of 5. Can you add those 2 groups together? Or we give them 5 manipulatives, and that's it. Having something that might make sound or light up on top of having the actual manipulative, or some sort of sound award, light award, something that actually does something else to cause another sensation, might actually inspire an increased engagement to want to go ahead and fulfill those goals. Any other questions? No? Well, thank you so much. Thank you for coming. I appreciate that you came, and have a great day.
Good job.
Thank you.
Good job. Very